It's a wonderful thing to notice that the book of Psalms is a compilation of Israel's experiences back from Moses all the way up to the exile. That's some 800 years. I often think of it as mostly David's book, but Moses' contribution, that's Psalm 90, it stands out as a moment of antiquity, even in David's time, because Moses lived some 400 years before David. Psalm 90 begins with these words, a prayer of Moses, the man of God. Lord, you have been our dwelling place in all generations. At Central, God has been our dwelling place for these last 90 years. We can pray these words along with Moses. And he says this, before the mountains were brought forth, or ever you had formed the earth and the world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. You know, here at Central, sometimes we make jokes, Mary Lou, about some of our older generation having been around to hear these words straight from Moses' lips. But Moses tells us in this psalm about the passing of time and the struggles that us little people have before a great God. In verse 10, he says, the years of our life are 70, or even by reason of strength 80, yet their span is but toil and trouble. They are soon gone, and we fly away. He goes on in verse 11, he says, who considers the power of your anger, God, and your wrath according to the fear of you? It's a good question. Who considers God's power? Who do you know that recognizes the fear of God? The awe of God? Well, I'll tell you who. Ken and Mary Donald, Case DeGraff, Paul and Marion Bergen, Ross and Faith Somerville, Gladys Broomfield, Bill and Kathy Corner, Ruth Haynes, Pat and Andy Johnson, Ray and June Kearley. You see, at Central, we're so blessed because the list goes on. Despite the antiquity of Moses' words, there are words today. Moses' prayer is our prayer today. He calls out from thousands of years ago to tell about God's faithfulness. But the Donalds, the Corners, the Kearleys, these saints and others like them here at Central, they carry forward Moses' message to our generation today. Have you ever taken the time to ask them about the power of God in their lives? I know I haven't done it nearly as often as I should. We're celebrating 90 years of God's faithfulness this year at Central. And we have living historical treasures among us. They have lived in the power of God. So let this be our prayer. As Moses says in verse 16, God, let your work be shown to your servants and your glorious power to their children. I want to know his work. I want my children to know his power. So I challenge you today, just as I challenged me. Pick up a phone. Give one of these saints a call, one of these treasures a call. Ask them how God has established the work of their hands. Because God has been with us, Central. And God is with us still. So let this be our prayer. Let the favor of the Lord our God be upon us, and establish the work of our hands upon us. Yes, establish the work of our hands. That's your challenge, Central.